Anger is a self-protection behavior that protects us against pain, that the potential of pain coming, because we have that thought always in our awareness in today's world, because our hearts are so filled with unresolved pain from our early childhood programming years. God bless our parents, they didn't know what the hell they were doing. And neither do we. And we're going to keep doing the same thing over and over again unless we change our way of parenting. Our rejection model of parenting that we're operating from now is programmed into us, and we're getting bombarded by it through on your TV. They speak directly, indirect things to your intellect. Your truth, your intellect, and your wisdom. Your truth says everything that you've become aware of. Not everything, though. Not everything to be aware of, but everything you become aware of so far in your experiences, as far as what you understand from them. Whether it be accurate information or inaccurate, it's what you understand. That's what truth will work with in the moment of new experience. So when somebody else, a manipulator, speaks directly into your intellect and your wisdom together as one thing, that's automatic trust. When we separate the wisdom part and go angry person's wisdom, we're in self-protection, animal instinct, because we feel threatened. There's a threat, so okay, that's our thing. And we're stuck there because we're programmed through intellect to search for the indirect, how do you say that? They plant seeds. Okay, how do I say that? So, for instance, I saw on, what show was that? Fucking NCIS. They say things like, we take down this terrorist cell and another one just pops up. What does that say to intellect? We sit and think about it, and intellect says to ourselves, oh, first of all, oh no, and wisdom then kicks in and says, the next one, and the next one, and the next one. There's no stopping it. And they don't say it. We say it to ourselves in silence and become afraid of it, but it's a falsehood. It's a manipulated, it's emotional manipulation of human trust, but through it's the false prophet, because that's what prophets do. They don't tell you things directly. They tell you things indirectly to speak directly to your intellect. That's what Jesus did. Everything that works in opposite does opposite things of what is good. So in terms of goodness, Jesus spoke to us into our intellect. So our intellect would tell us in silence and impact our hearts, because it's all internal spiritual calculation thing with the life source feeding us that truth. You see, when there's emotional manipulation like that, the lie is spoken to your intellect, and that lie, that example, but it's the example of how we're being controlled like that. They understand programming, people. They understand specifically emotional programming, how our life source works in terms of what elements speak when. They understand also spiritual rape. That's the first lie. And why the first lie. And they also understand the emotional manipulation to maintain it, the ongoing lie, but it's done emotionally, so it interacts with our intellect. So then we come up with the fact. It's not a fact. See, fact. I said that automatically. It's automatic fucking in the moment programming that we adjust to and believe is truth. And that's the betrayal. Internally, that's what's going on with the evil spirit influence, and that's how the outside can manipulate us inside, because we have that weakness, because there's that other electromagnetic pulse through the earth thing doing that to us, speaking the way truth speaks, but in a hijacked truth, you see. So when we get that, terrorists are always going to kill us, then we are always in fear, and then, oh God, we always need the army. Anyway, so what was my whole point to the self-protection behavior? Anger is a self-protection behavior that, because we're programmed from bombarded outside in a million different ways, once you learn that map, and you internalize because you follow it inside, you can then see how those things are done. On the outside through TV, and come to your own conclusions from the reality of what's going on, and not the manipulated scenario of what the puppeteer wants us to believe. The puppets trusting, fucking, people who screw with the Holy Spirit like that are not forgiven. They will never be forgiven by God. It said that. Well, the Holy Spirit. Trust is the Holy Spirit. That's my thing. I don't know. You decide what the Holy Spirit is to you. But no other spirit is created, birthed, other than when two people tell each other the truth. And no spirit is birthed when one of those people are lying, or both. No spirit of good is birthed, but the opposite spirit is birthed. Is hijacked. See, I don't like to say birthed when it comes to spiritual death, because that's what that is. It's the beginning of spiritual death. So how is that birthed? It's created. It's an infection. It's a parasitical fucking relationship with a spiritual darkness that has to be committed to its own evil, because he can't be committed to that which he's trying to destroy, the truth and the light inside our heart slot process, our emotional heart slot process. That's where the intercept point is. That's where it was in childhood. That's where it still is now, because we're unresolved. It's absolutely deeply disturbing, because you got to go through everything that is left unresolved in your heart to find certain specific things to grow from. And it's that journey into what they're calling the rabbit hole. You get lost there. That's what I did. That's what I was trying. And how many times did I wander off because I didn't want to fucking look at some of this stuff? At that moment, in time that I was looking, I knew something had to change, and I looked for those things, and looked and looked and looked, and used everything that I learned in terms of cognitive skill, reprogramming my reaction to the emotional infection that I had from my early childhood programming. You see, that resulted in automatic reaction to the angry person's wisdom, because that was my self-protection behavior that protected my unresolved heart, you see? So you didn't hurt me. I carried the pain with me into the relationship that I'm having with you, like if we were one-on-one with each other. And you wouldn't be threatening in any way, but would trigger something that was unresolved in my past. And I would perceive that as the same emotional threat, and go automatic angry person's wisdom. Eventually, at first it's just lying and deception, lying about how I'm feeling. I disguise it as deception. It's the mask thing, right? Anyway, the point to all that was when I used those meditations, those self-actualization meditations, those self-healing meditations. One day, all that was gone. Everything that, going into that rabbit hole or that depth to find that one specific thing, but you have to go through everything that's left unresolved. All that's unresolved is gone. That's the key. And making this less terrifying for anybody. Not to mention living in happiness, joy, contentment of spiritual fullness, because that doesn't come automatically, but you won't be afraid to relate yourself to to others. It does it disappear 100%? No. There is a real concern for a little bit to be left, because there are spiritual predators on this planet. We all know that. Emotional deception, manipulation is others preying on our trust and using that strength, that spiritual strength, as a weakness. It's using their opposite, their chosen opposite. Sometimes it's not chosen, though. That's the thing. Safer, yeah. See, that's the thing. You get programmed into self-protection. See, I left my thing. You get programmed into self-protection, and then when truth tells you, hey, wait, you can't do that. But what else do you think? Do you think, well, what else am I going to do? I'm scared. Fuck it. And we don't see that. We feel it in a second, in the moment. And then react. We can't help it unless we start learning different ways of reacting. And that's exactly what I did, but it was still the same fucking pain. Chaos, my heart's thought process. And then, therefore, chaos still in my closest relationships. Because I knew how to bullshit my way now. All that disappears, and then once it disappears, you learn through experience again, but without the interception inside our wisdom, where wisdom gets turned into the dark feminine, influenced by the dark feminine of something fucking evil to do that to us as children, all of us, and continues to do so throughout life.